So welcome everyone to the October Space Data Hackers Meetup. We meet once a month. We've been doing this series all year. We did it to start off as a lead-in for the Space Apps Challenge. And one of the things we'll talk about tonight is how that went. That was earlier this month. But this meetup is a permanent long-term meetup where we want to develop the data hacker culture in Seattle and around the country and around the world, really, to help people build skills and find cool projects to work on. I'm James Burke. I'm the lead organizer for the Space Apps Seattle, and I'm one of the 3 directors of the Space Apps Foundation here in Seattle, and we organize this meetup. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how the Space Apps event this year went, and how you can keep things going. I think we may have a few people on the call who, I think Joe was the organizer here in Tacoma. May have a couple other folks on the call that participated. Love to hear how you guys think it went. Love to get your feedback on the event and how we can do better next year. Hopefully we're in person next year. That's definitely what I'm hoping for. I think 2 years ago, we had the event in a location in Seattle, and I think we'll shoot for doing that next year. So let's talk about how it went. Those are our winning teams this year. We actually had pretty good participation overall. I mean, overall, the numbers on online events are down from this time last year. You may have heard Joe and I talking about the Mars Society conference, which I also organize. Back in 2020, we had 10,000 attendees at the conference online. And this year we had about 4,000. So still a pretty great event, but definitely down from last year. And I would attribute that to a couple different factors. Number one, I think Zoom fatigue is a real thing. So I thank all of you for being on this call right now. I know that this probably isn't the first Zoom call you've had today. It certainly isn't the first one I've had. And so people don't always like to stay on Zoom all the time. I think what was happening a lot last year too is people were starving for contact with other folks, and the online stuff was a lot newer than it is now. Now it's sort of old hat. So those things I think played into the fact that most online events have decreased numbers from this time last year. But still, here in Seattle, we made a really good showing. I mean, I think we had a total of 10 teams around that competing, and we were actually better than a lot of US cities this year. We actually had more participants and teams than Houston, and a couple other cities too. So we're really thankful for your participation, and we had some really great projects this year. Launching to New Heights had best use of technology. They did a great job. Arzia Mons Gomez, best use of data. And they also got the Art and Technology Award. And then Almadium, which was the farm project, got most inspirational, best storytelling. And then they were also the team we designated to be a global nominee. So they'll go on to compete with all the other Space Apps Challenge folks around the world. So congratulations to those winners, but also congratulations to everyone who participated. We hope you got something out of doing that. Whether you were a winner or not, I'm sure that it was a good experience, and you learned something, and that's what this is all about. So it's all about folks coming together and building new skills. So I'll just kind of throw it out there. Is there anyone here that would like to kind of share a story or two about how the event went, and any feedback you guys have for me and the other organizers? You can go ahead and unmute your mic. Any feedback at all? Francis, go ahead.
Sure. I unfortunately was unable to attend, but I was wondering if there's a location where we could view those projects. I just don't know where I would go for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have it up on YouTube.
Oh, great.
So we record all of our meetups for the Space Data Hackers, and we also record the Zoom calls we held over the weekend for Space Apps. So the kickoff event where we had a speaker and the presentation. So all that's up on our YouTube channel. You can also check out last year as well. And so we plan to do that moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
I'll put the link in the chat in a moment. So
Great.
any other stories you guys would like to share, any feedback you have? And then if not, I'll throw it over to you, Joe. Do you want to talk a little bit about how the Tacoma event went and any lessons learned you personally had?
Sure. First of all, in organizing, we found kind of near the end that there weren't enough people signed up. And I've just followed your instructions, and I called the universities again, and we had people that did sign up kind of at the last minute. And it looked like there was also somebody that changed. They had a team, and then I saw it signed up early, and then they moved their team to Tacoma. And so I don't know what was going on. They never contacted me, but so we had 3 teams. One that I'm not sure if they worked on the project or not, and then a team from called Space Loots from Tacoma Pacific Lutheran University, and one team from University of Washington. And the Space Loots team, they were mostly not communicating during the project. They were working on it, and in the end they submitted, and I submitted their project as a global nomination. But there wasn't a lot of like what you would get when you're together in a big room. There wasn't a lot of camaraderie, and like shoulder to shoulder, and because it was all remote, and there wasn't even really a lot of that chatter on that. We did a Discord channel that they were doing their own, and possibly they were in person, maybe in the dorms or somewhere at somebody's house at Pacific Lutheran University. So that was kind of different, I guess, in terms of just the experience. But we did it. We got 3 teams. It was my first year. I have to say I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning, but I got some advice. So that was helpful. And we even had somebody sign up from India, which was really hard. I didn't realize how hard that would be, but if you think about the time zone, right now it's around 7:30 or 8 in the morning there. So just about the time we've had a full day, they're just getting up and ready to go.
Right.
So that was hard. I had to kind of work, like do double time to be able to accommodate that team member. Anyway, I think that would be about my entire summary.
Okay, thanks, Joe. I mean, I guess for me to also give some perspective and what went well for us. Every year, I've been doing this for 2 years now, both of the 2 virtual events we've had. We get direction from the global organizers, the NASA Space Apps Challenge organizers that are on the East Coast, and they have a planning call on Wednesday mornings, for about 3 months before the event, where they kind of roll out, okay, here's sort of the procedures, and here's how you organize one of these, and then later, closer to the event, they give us the challenges, which everyone's really waiting for. And then they give us, marketing materials and social media posts and things like that we could use. I found that last year and this year, there was sometimes we were getting stuff a little close to the event. So that just, we get a lot of clamoring for what the challenges are. It'd be nice to get those earlier than what we get them. And when we did get them, they were all up on the website. They first gave us summaries, and then they gave us the full challenges kind of before they said they would. So it was a little bit of a surprise. For getting teams formed, we tried last year to have teams get formed like the Friday night before the weekend, and that was a little chaotic. So this year we tried to be a little bit more proactive and have teams get formed earlier. We did a couple pre-events, which you participated in too, Joe, and you know, basically had most of our teams formed ahead of time, and that was helpful, I think, because when people got to the event, they sort of knew each other and knew what challenge they were going after. And so that's certainly something I would recommend if you're going to be a participant in Space Apps next year. Try to look, you know, watch out for the challenges and pick a challenge, and then find like-minded team members before the event. Don't like wait till Friday night, or even worse, Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon to find your team, because then you're just, you know, you have less time to work on the project. But overall, you know, like I said, feel like we had good teams that were working well together. We set up a Slack, and we encourage people to use Slack, but then they often would go off and create their own resources to communicate. So a lot of people were using Discord, because apparently Discord is more popular these days than Slack is. So I think that's good feedback that we'll take, and probably try to use Discord for the main Seattle event organizing and participant communication. I'd love to hear if any participants are here, like how they felt about the Zoom calls we had. We had a morning sync, kind of a wake up call at 10 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday. And then Saturday night, we had sort of a, here's how to do a presentation session. Those three, and then of course the actual presentations were Sunday afternoon. The first three calls, like obviously the Friday night event is like the kickoff, and so that's pretty well attended, and we have a speaker for that. But the Saturday morning and Saturday evening events were not very well attended. I think there was maybe 8 people on those, 8 to 10. So, you know, any feedback there that folks might have, I'd love to hear it. I don't know if there's any. Seems like most of the people on this call are not participants, but feel free to unmute if you have any feedback there.
Yeah, just for the just I'd like to say, because I participated that. Hey James, and for Saturday and Sunday, I thought it was great in spacing out the interval just to keep at it, because really I went in Saturday thinking I was going to have my own team, and you go in with an expectation, and then just a check-in, and then you kind of get the feeling for what the energy and how people are forming, and then more data comes in. Maybe the team doesn't work out, and it was almost like going in a maze and just trying to figure your way in. I ended up joining another team, knowing how much time is running out. And I can attest to what Joe was mentioning about the communications on Discord, how it was tough. I mean, just trying to, we all had a common goal as a team, and you don't know them. And it's very different. It's new. Like, my assumption was that everyone kind of knew how to communicate in that space, but not everybody knows how to communicate in the online pandemic space, because it's very new for everybody, right? So it was that dynamic that's really it was something new to be dealt with. Next year will be a whole different ball game, but it was great to participate in this.
Cool, thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, I think it is sometimes a challenge to collaborate with folks you've never met before, 100% online. Being able to walk around a venue and, you know, as a mentor or an organizer, to check in on how the teams are doing is just invaluable. And we just weren't able to do that. We were forced to have them come to us if they needed help. And that having those Zoom calls I mentioned was one of the ways we were trying to kind of get people to have more of a sense of community and check in and see how they're doing. Yeah, no, I think, like I said, I'm really fingers crossed for in person again next year, and that'll be a whole different ball game. So, any other comments or questions that you guys have about how the event went, or if you didn't participate, any questions you have about Space Apps?
I signed up. I don't know if I've been accepted, but I signed up again next year to be the lead here in Tacoma. So we'll see if they accept me.
I'm sure they will, Joe. They
was-
usually accept repeat organizers, and it's probably a few months until they start doing that anyway. So
Yeah, that's fine. So one other thing that we did, at least my team, I don't know what the other team did, is we used Glitch as the online collaborative code editing tool. And that allowed us, all three of us, to be in the same code working on it together. And then I don't know exactly, when you're in Git, you have to create a user, and that user can then commit to a repository. And I realized that my user ID was in there, and if they were changing code and then committing, my name would be on the commits. And so I had each user put their name in when they were writing their code, so their name would show up on the commit. So it wouldn't just look like I was the only one making commits, even though they were doing the work. So that was something, you're talking about the kind of weird things that we do, the tools that we're using and whether it works or not. And we didn't know when we first started that would be a problem. It never hadn't crossed my mind that would be so we had to work that out in the morning. Anyway, I don't know if that really that's kind of micro detail. I don't know if it matters in the big picture.
No, it's good. It's a good thing to know. I mean, pair programming is a concept that is used a lot in different tech companies where you have two developers sitting next to each other physically and working on code together. And that sounds like a great way to do that virtually. I'm not familiar with the tool you mentioned. I know that there's other tools that can do that, but yeah, you're kind of at the mercy of them working. So, Francis, I saw you were unmuted for a second. Do you have a question or a comment?
Well, I was just going to say that I only recently found out about the group, maybe 2 weeks before the event started. And I saw that there was a lot of people talking on Slack and getting pretty good feedback from Slack regarding setting up teams. And I thought that was pretty effective and it looked like a pretty good community. So I was a little surprised to hear that there wasn't as much communication between teams after the event had started.
Well, I think there was. It's just it wasn't visible to
yeah.
folks like me who were in Slack. They had what happened, I think, is a lot of teams set up their own Discord server and didn't necessarily invite all the organizers and mentors, although some of the mentors did participate in those.
Because it's easy to message and talk at the same time. You can't quite do that on Slack.
Right. No, I'm definitely aware that Discord in 2021, Discord is very popular. Now I've been a tech guy for my whole life. I've been in the industry for 20 years. And so, I'm not sure if next year or 2 years from now or 5 years from now, Discord is still going to be as popular as it is right now, but I'm fully aware that it is right now. And so I think if we had to do it over again, with Space Apps Seattle, we would have used Discord exclusively. Our global organizers use Rocket Chat, which is sort of an open source version of Slack or Discord. In my opinion, it's not great. I actually tried to use it at the Mars Society, tried to roll it out to our members a couple years ago, was very disappointed in it. So they actually had that, the global organizers were using that in 2020 and kept it this year. And ours was dead. I mean, all the cities got a channel in there. And I basically posted in there, hey, we're over in Slack, come meet us there. And that's the only post that's in that channel ever. So hopefully
Right.
people found us, but I don't think a lot of people use that tool overall.
Yeah, Discord will probably be the way to go.
Yeah, I think so, unless something better gets invented between now and next year.
Right.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I'm going to just throw up this slide here that talks about, now that Space Apps is over and we have basically a whole year until the next one, like what do you do if you're interested in that? Well, the first thing you could do is attend this meetup, because we're going to have a lot of great content and experiences for folks. We're going to have speakers. If you've come to our meetups before, and you can check out our archives, I just put them in the chat. They're on YouTube. We've had a lot of great speakers at this meetup. We had Robert Kahn from Black Sky, which is a pretty amazing company that is local to Seattle. That's a commercial satellite imagery company that just went public recently. They're doing very well. They're very successful. So he came and spoke with us. And he was also one of our judges for Space Apps. Another judge was Soyun Yi, who is the first astronaut from South Korea. And she's local to Seattle. She lives here. And she spoke at our in-person event in 2019. And she'll definitely be part of our meetups at some point this year. She's a great lady, great resource, very knowledgeable about space, very knowledgeable about technology. Sean McClinton, who was our speaker last year, is on our board. He runs the Space Entrepreneurs Network here in Seattle. And he'll likely be a speaker at one of our meetups. And then if you don't know who I am, my background is I worked at Microsoft for 20 years. I was a technical project manager, and I'm now with the Mars Society. I'm the Director of Information Technology, as well as the Space Apps Seattle organizer. And so I know a lot about data and space as well. So I'll probably share some of the work I do and some of the projects I've worked on in this forum. But we'd love to get other speakers too. And as a matter of fact, for our December 2nd event, right now we're looking for some speakers. We have one possible speaker, not confirmed yet, but if you have any ideas of who we might invite, please let us know. You can go to our website, spacedatahackers.com or spaceappsseattle.org, our two websites, and send us a note there. So some other ways you can participate. We do have, we've been talking about, we have a Slack. We have a Slack for Space Data Hackers. And so you can join that. Let me actually put the link to that in the chat. That's a great place to just meet people, to network with folks, but also people do work on projects. And we were fostering one small community of folks earlier this year that were working on a project to search for wildfires and help prevent them. And that's just one example of the kind of things we'd like to do in the future. So you can join the Slack channel for Space Data Hackers and meet folks and work on projects there. And we have lots of resources as well. We have a wiki on our GitHub channel that you can learn about working with data and take some free classes and find NASA and other companies' data sets that you can help with your projects. So check that out. Another thing we're going to do, the slide says hack days and workouts. I do want to mention we are going to have an event in April or May that is a startup weekend for space data and for space startups. And we're partnering with Techstars on that. And we'll be announcing more details on that in the coming weeks and months. So that's something I think our group the organizers of Space Data Hackers and Space Apps Seattle, we're gonna regularly put on startup weekends. We're planning on doing 2 a year, and it's all to help the local community here in Seattle grow and help hopefully companies start here in Seattle that are space companies and space technology companies. There's a lot of folks within our network that could be mentors to you. So like Michael Patrick, who was one of our teams, Joseph Gruber, who was one of our mentors, myself, Michael Doyle, who's one of our other organizers. Michael Doyle works at Amazon, but he's been involved with space apps for, I think, 7 or 8 years. So we can all be mentors to you in those areas of, technical, business, and scientific. And yeah, having goals is good. I'm not sure, Mike Doyle put this slide together. I'm not sure what he meant by goals, but I think with any project, if you're going to work on something as a hobby or work on something as a idea that might turn into a business or might turn into a nonprofit or community project, making sure that you have a sense of what you're trying to do and getting that reviewed by someone else is a good thing to do. So setting goals is great. I'm sure everyone would agree with that. And then looking for events that drive those goals. And so I think that also works for us. I mean, we want to find what you and the community want to do with Space Data Hackers, and we want to tailor our meetup series to match that. It doesn't necessarily have to be about data. It could be about whatever space-related project you guys want to work on. So anyway, I've kind of been talking a lot. I'd love to just kind of throw it out to anyone here that has a question or a comment about our meetup series, and any feedback you guys have, I'd love to hear it. So go ahead and unmute and let us know.
So
Go ahead, Joe.
I started, I can't remember the name, it was called Space Tags New York City or something like that. I started fiddling with that
Yeah.
quite a while ago, and made changes to the code, and realized why they were using MongoDB. And I had an instance, a free instance of MongoDB, and after the 30 days was up, the free instance went away. And so I thought, oh, I'll run my own instance on my own server. And I ran into trouble with doing the secure, the TLS handshaking between and I've been hesitant to ask anybody to reach out because I don't know at what level. So the question, this isn't a technical question. It's a question about, at what level is it okay to ask questions, even if it maybe doesn't have anything to do with space data. For example, doing secure handshaking between servers isn't exactly space data. It might be necessary to get the app running, and it might be better in a different forum. And so, I mean, that's kind of in the back of my mind, a question that I've had is what would be considered acceptable to post request for help?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Joe, any question that you have is acceptable, and we have enough folks in the Slack to weigh in on whatever technical problem or issue you're having. And I would say go ahead and post it in the general and see if anyone is able to help you. You might be surprised at the knowledge that folks have.
I'm hopeful.
And I'm pretty good at just using Google to find answers to problems, even if I haven't come across them myself. So I'd love to help you. If you put some more details about the issue you're facing in the Slack, I'd love to take a look for you. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Let me just ask, for some of you folks that are new, what brought you to the meetup tonight, and what were you kind of expecting to get out of this?
Well, I could say that I'm new to the group, only about a month in. I was really excited about that hackathon. I've never been part of hackathons. I've been coding now for, I'd say, 5 years. And I'm new to the area as of last year. And
Oh, welcome to Seattle.
yes, thank you, thank you. I'm originally from California and I studied out in Washington, D.C., and then I slowly trekked all the way over to Washington State. So it's good to be here. I like the Pacific Northwest. But I'm kind of always on the hunt for good data sets, and I've always been interested in space and stargazing. I had a really old telescope when I was a child and would look at the stars in my free time. So, typical story of how you get interested into that kind of stuff. And I just started searching around on Meetup groups for different groups interested in specific topics related to data, and one of those topics was space data. Found you guys. I wish I had found it maybe 2 months earlier so that I could have joined the hackathon and really gotten into it. But I'm mostly interested to hear people speaking on space, people sharing interesting data sets that they found. I've only just started getting into like getting really deep into geospatial coding, and I'm finding it very interesting. I've never done anything like that before. I'm mostly a ETL pipeline automator. So doing the more visual side of coding and the more getting knee deep into one specific area of code is not something that I've done. So I've been exploring around with geospatial data, and I'm thinking of continuing to look for more of that kind of stuff.
That's great. Well, Joe just put in the chat, and thanks, Joe, a link to our wiki. And there's quite a few space data sets there that you can look through. For geospatial data, I'm a huge fan of JMars. It's a tool that was developed at Arizona State University for the Mars missions, but it also has Earth and Moon layers. That's a great tool. So definitely check out JMars. But yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. Welcome to Seattle and welcome to the meetup. We'd love to see you again and have you participate in Space Apps next year.
I hope to, yeah. I'd like to continue staying involved and being in touch and making this kind of stuff happen.
Very cool.
Glad to be here.
Anybody else have a question or comment? And I'd love to hear, if you're new to the meetup, what brought you here and what you hope to get out of it.
So I think this is either second or third time I've shown up. First time I showed up, someone was giving a presentation for a UI we're submitting a project to NASA for a UI astronaut helmet interface. And that was pretty neat, gotta say. And then the second time, I don't know if it was later at that meeting or a second time I showed up, is when everyone was splitting into groups, and I did not feel comfortable joining into any groups at that point in time. So yeah, I am interested in learning more about the space industry and kind of the problems that currently plagues it. Obviously with SpaceX, Blue Origin, et cetera, all jumping into the space game, it is evolving at a very rapid pace. And so I find that exciting.
Well, thank you so much for that, Chase. I'm glad to hear you like the last one of the last meetups where we had the speaker on the UI helmet design. That was really cool. We are going to do probably some breakouts tonight, so don't feel like you have to join them if you're not comfortable doing that. It's totally fine, totally optional. But yeah, thank you so much, and we're glad you're here, and we'd love to have you come back. So, anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jeff Hove. This is my first meeting. I had just found out about your group on Meetup probably a week ago. Been, like all kids, was interested in space since early childhood. But professionally, I've been in IT, business analyst, developer, IT manager type things. But my hobbies have always been aviation and amateur rocketry. Was very, very active about 20 years ago when things were really getting going with the various challenges like the X Prize and stuff. I actually was standing on the runways at Mojave, or right next to the runways at Mojave on the first Spaceship One landing. Got to shake Melville's hand right afterwards. That was fun.
Very cool.
But when I heard of your group, I was envisioning, using amateur radio to receive the signals from the satellites and learning how to decode the telemetry and process it. I have been one of my COVID projects was just taking a lot of classes on data analysis and learning the Python language. So I was kind of interested in seeing some of your data sets and practicing some Python coding on it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jeff. Yeah, we definitely recommend folks learn Python, especially people that are new to programming. It's a very powerful language. It's simple to learn, but it's becoming the standard for working with data in a lot of ways, certainly for data science and machine learning. It is. And so we do have a lot of free training resources in our wiki. So I definitely invite you to check those out. As far as kind of amateur signal processing, and that sounds really cool. That sounds really fascinating. I'd love to learn more about that. If you wanted to post about that in the Slack, and we could even make a channel for that. I personally would be interested in that, learning more about that. I've got on my shelf here one of the amateur ham radio manuals that you're supposed to read when you get certified, and it's been on my to-do list for a couple of years because with one of the space groups I volunteer for, we have a power beaming demo that requires a ham radio license to operate. And so I've wanted to kind of learn how to do that and see if I can run the demo at a conference sometime where I can kind of beam power across the room. There's a lot of future applications of beaming power down from space. I think that would be good for humanity. You know, if we had large solar power satellites over our major cities, for example, you know, capturing solar power from the sun and then beaming it down, that would, I think, solve a lot of the world's problems, in my personal opinion. But anyway, no, thank you so much for sharing that. And we're really glad that you're joined tonight, and we hope you see you again. But yeah, definitely check out the Slack and check out the wiki. So thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? So what I'm going to do, unless there's any other questions or comments or feedback, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up a couple of breakout rooms so you guys can network with each other. You don't, like Chase, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Thank you for coming. But I'm going to go ahead and set those up, and I'm going to invite everyone to join one of those. And before I do that, let me just share with you that our next meetup will be on Thursday, December 2nd. Normally our meetups are the last Thursday of the month, but because November, that's Thanksgiving, we figured we'd just push it out a week and then not meet over the Christmas holiday, because that would probably be low attendance. So this is the one exception. Our sort of November, December meetup is the first Thursday of December, not the last, but then we'll be resuming our normal schedule in 2022 and have the meetups on the last Thursday of the month. And you can watch our meetup page or Facebook. We have a Facebook group. We also have Eventbrite. You can find us on those 3 platforms, or if you just join the Slack, we'll always be posting links to the meetups in there as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and set up the breakout rooms and invite you guys to go in there and talk to each other and meet each other. And I will thank you for participating, and I'll see you guys next month.